When we talk about India's ability to manufacture, it actually brings in the ability to manufacture not just for India and our requirements, but also for the world. One of the most heartening aspects of Indian defense has been our ability to export. So it's not just make in India for India, it's not just Atmanirbhar Bharat, but a part of that is make in India and build for the world. Now, this is something that the government has spoken about for a long period of time, but I think now you're actually seeing more than green shoots. The fact that we've been able to sell artillery guns abroad, that we've been exporting BrahMos missiles, there's a potential of both the private sector and the public sector being actively involved. It's a great sign because there are very few countries who are actually able to do this. But let me go across right away to my panel and start with Boeing, which has had such a fantastic run in India. You have invested greatly in manufacturing facilities in this country, which directly employs thousands of people. The goal over here is a long-term commitment to India. Now, that obviously is an interesting question because it comes amidst difficult times. You've had the US president talk about, build in America for America. You are building in India for India in a sense. How do you deal with the current geopolitical environment, particularly from the United States?
Thanks, Vishnu, for addressing the elephant in the room right off the bat. The tariffs are always going to be a challenge, whether it's now the current tariffs that we're dealing with or what may come in the future, or what has happened in the past. The aerospace and defense business is a long cycle business, and we are in here for the long run. We strongly stand by the joint statement which was made by President Trump and Prime Minister Modi earlier this year, where there are definite synergies for collaboration from the engineering side from the US and from the talent side from India, where we strongly believe that both parties can mutually benefit. From Boeing's perspective, we have a lot of our investments in manufacturing and engineering residing in the US that will remain a focus and therefore, like I said, is a challenge in the short term. But in the long run, we remain committed to India. Like you noted, we have made significant investments in not only manufacturing capabilities, but also sourcing from India, which totals almost about 1.25 to 1.3 billion now in hard defense manufacturing, which is exported into our global supply chain. Coupled with the significant research and development investment which also exists in the country, it remains our commitment to partner with India in supporting the warfighter in developing capabilities that are reliable and resilient, because that's essentially what the warfighter requires. It's not just the lethality of the product or the system that is offered, but also its reliability over the long run and the resilience of the supply chain of the manufacturing process to be able to tide over times of crisis. So that remains our commitment for the long run.
Mr. Wadhavan, I must ask you, in as much as we talk about Atmanirbharta and manufacturing in India, it's probably important not to necessarily reinvent the wheel. So if technologies exist, there is a certain sense in adopting those technologies, improving upon it and manufacturing it in India to an Indian requirement. How, in a sense, is the Adani Group looking to do that? Import doesn't need to be a bad word. It's what you do with the technology in meeting a specific requirement.
Yeah, thank you, Vishnu. So what we are doing in Adani is we are building capability for the country as well as for the world right now. And not just now, for the last couple of years. So you're absolutely correct that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. But what we need to do is we need to build technology in India. So whenever we choose a partner, or whenever we look at a technology, we have been looking at it from the futuristic point of view. Like look at the loitering piece of it, or strategic loitering. When we bought that technology to India, at that time nobody was even looking at it. We realized that that would be the next war which would require it to happen, and that's how we got in. So what we do is we always choose a product or a capability which we need to develop in the country. Then what we do is we look at how are we going to do it. Either we're going to do it with R&D, DRDO, because it'll take a little bit of time to be able to do it, or we choose a partner. And it's very important how you choose the right partner to be able to to bring the technology. He has to provide capability to be built in India. So first, the partner should be committed with you. If the partner is committed not just for here, for global. Secondly, the partner should give you the capability to develop it. So build the whole product here. Thirdly, he should be able to work with you on the R&D so that we can upgrade to a newer technology. And fourthly, export it here and be part of the supply chain. And that's what we've been doing. We have bought in technology. We have not just worked on building it here, but we have done R&D. There are niche technologies we have built now, which is used here as well as for the globe, and then taken it abroad, which just gives a leapfrog from where we start to next 3 years. We have the technology and we are in R&D itself. So you're absolutely correct. The main objective is to build capability and build it fast.
Mr. Saraf, Pratt & Whitney is just huge all over the world. You deal with a lot of medium and small scale manufacturers in India in terms, there has not been a defense or a manufacturing ecosystem in India in the past. Can you describe to us your experience in ensuring that you get the quality that you require? Because in building engines, jet and otherwise, you need micron-specific clearances, for example. You can't go wrong. How difficult is it to get Indian manufacturers to build to that standard?
So thank you so much. And also thank you for highlighting that import is not a bad word. What you do with it, how you build upon it is more critical than saying that import, should be restricted 100%. So Pratt & Whitney and its parent RTX. So RTX is Raytheon Technologies, and as you said, Pratt & Whitney, has over 87,000 engines flying around the world and over 65,000 customers. Our parent RTX, Raytheon Technologies, obviously has defense systems that exist in pretty much every single defense equipment that goes across the world. And same applies to India. Just to put things in perspective, for defense, between Pratt & Whitney and RTX, we have equipment on C-17, C-295, C-130J, P-8I, Apache, Chinook, MH-64 Romeo, as well as LCA Mach 1. So, that's the range of equipment we cover. As far as India is concerned, RTX, our parent, and Pratt, we've been present here for about 70 years, developing various sorts of ecosystems in supply chain, engineering, digital, aftermarket, training, and so on. Our training center in Hyderabad is one of the 3 in the world, servicing this entire region of Asia and Middle East. The supply chain ecosystem development that we do here, and obviously, as you know, and as you said it rightly, engine requires an incredibly precise amount of, manufacturing. And we do have that in India, exporting hundreds of crores worth of parts and components for global use. For that, we have invested in India. We have invested in putting the processes and tools that equip our supply base to apply those, coupled with their precision manufacturing capability that combines to have the best of both worlds in terms of precision manufacturing technology and processes. Also, the quality and certifications and capability development that Indian supply chain has gone through over the last 15 years is just unprecedented. In 2010, when I started in the Indian A&D world, it was very difficult to find suppliers to spend money. If I were to be given $100 million in 2010 and say, go spend on Indian supply chain, very difficult to do. Today, even $1 billion is less, and we are climbing up and up and up. All thanks to the capital investments that have gone in, and a classic example here, Ashok and the Adani Group, how incredibly they have grown over the past 7 years. It's just an immense success story. And several more who have put in the capital investments understood that aerospace is a long cycle business, so let's not look quarter to quarter. And now the capabilities that are developed are basically for the next 25 years. We easily see these capabilities and the sourcing doubling, tripling, quadrupling, from OEMs like us.
Mr. Joshi, Boeing has been in India for 80 years, as I understand it. You employ 7,000 people, sorry, and 13,000 indirectly. How are you not an Indian company?
That's an excellent question. I wish I knew the answer to that. I do hope that we will be able to find a good answer to that, because we are in effect an Indian company. We are registered in India. We are working for the Indian Defense Forces. We have got people on ground at the bases in direct support of our warfighters, lockstep with them through Operation Sindoor and others, and we will remain committed to that long-term goal. I think while the larger goal of Viksit Bharat and Atmanirbhar is admirable, it is aspirational, and it is inevitable for a country like India. It needs to be, I think, moderated, if I may use the word, through the lens of what I spoke about earlier: capability, reliability, and resilience. We need to ensure that we have the way forward and a defined path to develop products that are capable to meet our armed forces requirements, that are reliable and are resilient. We should have, therefore, the capability to scale up production, not just design a product and then, it takes endless years before we can get them out into the field. So all of these are critically important to have success towards achieving the aspirational goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat. If you look at lean strategy, it is always important to define a vision that is aspirational, and I think the government of India has done a great job in defining the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision. It is up to us to change the trend of the decisions that we make today, whether it is going to get us to that goal in a defined time period or not. So Boeing in India remains committed to taking those strong steps to establish a solid foundation through hiring the right people, developing the right capabilities, developing the supply chain resilience, which is critical to this industry, to be able to capitalize on these to eventually meet the Atmanirbhar Bharat goals.
Mr. Madhavan, even for a moment, if you assume that Boeing came to India and therefore are not typically Indian, and the same with Pratt & Whitney, I'm just pulling your leg. In the case of the Adani Group, there's no excuse. You are Indian. So how do you look at Make in India, build for the world? Because at the end of the day, India is only one market, and you can't bank on the Indian system because it's painfully slow very often. But how do you actively see Indian manufacturing, including your group, sort of target markets outside as well?
Yeah, so I consider them Indian as much as they are. Only thing is they have to start building full products in India. As of now, they're building components. The reason, the way we build our capability is that we get in the best-in-class technology. If you walk into any of our plants, be it for ammunition or for loitering or for counter-drone systems, or you walk into a plant anywhere else in the world, you'll consider us to be number one or number two. In fact, there will be places where, because we are building the capability today, and most of the plants all over the world have been there for a long period of time, our technology is far superior, like what we did with telecom. We came in much more and our technology is far more. Similarly, in defense, when we build capability or build a plant for that capability, it's the best in class. So when we look at, you look at quality, it's artificial intelligence which works on it. The best in class components come out with it. We are bringing the laboratories in-house where our testing capabilities are number one, where we don't have to rely on anyone else. We can do all kind of testing, starting from a material coming in to a product going out in-house. So with training the manpower, which is the most important and critical, we are spending hours and hours getting the right people. Availability of manpower is not an issue, but training them to produce the right product and the product which we are manufacturing, because if you pick up a person from the street, he may not even have seen the product, but making him understand the product, making him to manufacture it is what we are spending time on. With that kind of capability coming in, we are not looking at just producing for the country. We are, like I said, even when we choose a partner, we are going global. Our objective is to supply the product to our partners, our friends, and the people who the government of India permits, export, or if we are partnering with someone, be part of their supply chain, or build just in India so that they can export it from here. So with all that which we are doing right now, obviously first objective is to build for the country, but it is not just limited to them. We are not, India is not just our market. Our market is globe, and that's what we are looking at.
Yeah. Mr. Saraf, a lot of companies, I dare say, would have set up, foreign companies, would have set up shop in India with the hope that that is an indicator of your interest in the Indian market, and therefore it is an incentive for the government to place orders in your firm. But does it also necessarily mean that, or do you believe that there are advantages for Pratt & Whitney to be manufacturing components and staying in India with Indian employees?
So when we look at India, right, we look at India from a few different angles. One is, it's obvious that we have engineering capabilities that are world-class, digital capabilities that are world-class, and then now with so many of us putting capital in the A&D domain, we have manufacturing that is world-class. Typically speaking, when we look at Indian operations, and yes, clearly the intent is to say, look, you have an Indian base because you want to service the Indian market from here. But the first and immediate thought that comes to mind is that, okay, let's make it a regional presence, because the market we have is the strongest, the capability is the strongest, our cost structures are really supporting us, and the talent is available, which is a huge issue worldwide, by the way. Being here, we don't appreciate, but the amount of talent we have available here is just unprecedented, which the other part of the world can't claim. So when we do it, the first thought is that, okay, let's make it regional, because then it's clearly that Asia and Middle East is the immediate market we want to look into. And then once that's established, we immediately say, okay, now let's do the next, which is, the Western countries, US and Europe. So one doesn't really look at India as saying, okay, let's do India for India first and then we'll see. I think going in itself, there is a clear intent that we want to make this as a base to say, look, it has to have make sense in terms of having a regional presence. And second is, it will absolutely make sense, and it does, and every single company we look at does the same thing, saying that, look, we have to export from here just because it just obviously makes perfect sense in terms of business case, cost, quality, delivery, timelines, everything.
Sure. Mr. Joshi, it's not just about selling a component or a weapon system, it's also about sustaining it. And given the numbers in the Indian armed forces of Boeing equipment, whether it's the Apache, whether it's the Chinook, the P-8, or the C-17, how does it become important to actually set up overall facilities, for example, and ensure that sustenance of these platforms can take place within India?
Thanks, Vishnu. I think, you hit the nail on the head by, again, coming back to the sustainment piece, because sustainment is a key part of reliability and resilience that I was speaking about. We are ensuring that we have not just the right people in India, and these are Indians who are being developed on an ongoing basis to get the skills and the expertise to be able to sustain platforms in support of the armed forces, but also the long tail of the supply chain of the products, of the overall capabilities, of the servicing capabilities, of the repairs that can be done in country to provide a quick turnaround to ensure ready availability for operational purposes of these platforms. At the end of the day, the benefit of the platforms that we may want to sell is proven in combat. And in combat, it is the ready availability and the continued availability of platforms and systems which is going to be critical. Sustainment, therefore, needs to change and adopt the newer technologies and the newer processes, whether it is through systems like performance-based logistics or other methods where we can ensure 100% reliability of these products, we have to change our mindset and our processes to be able to leverage the benefits offered by these techniques. We are still, I think, trying to move away from a certain contracting methodology. And I think I truly believe that it's hampering us to be able to leverage the benefits that these products offer. Even if you take a development contract, which is typically a fixed price development contract, which is what India usually adopts, to a more agile, phased, funded development program, which would encourage and make capital available where it is required to, whether it is industry in India or OEMs, to be able to develop products and deliver products that are required, customized to the Indian warfighters' needs. From a sustainment standpoint as well, the contracting methodology needs to adapt to these new methods, these sophisticated logistics and sustainment techniques to be able to deliver this benefit to India.
Mr. Wadhwan, research and development is obviously key. How are you going about with that process in looking at next generation technologies? Is that a serious financial commitment?
So it's an extremely important piece for us. Like I said, we are building capabilities. That's our main objective, to do it. And building capabilities has to go in with R&D, because you can't just bring in a product here and feel that, at least in this age and time, that will sustain. So what we are doing is we are partnering with DRDO and a couple of DCPP partners, bringing that technology and upgrading it. But more than that, we are doing joint development. We have built IP products which are being developed with our partners along with us in India, which will be manufactured only in India and exported, and we are upgrading it. In fact, there is a weapon system which we bought in a small arm, where we have actually bought in artificial intelligence in the small arm to be able to do it, and it was again a joint development R&D project done out of India. So it's an extremely important piece of it, be it artillery. We've just developed an artillery gun totally from ground zero. We are developing UUVs, which is unmanned underwater vehicles. We are developing weapon stations. So we are spending huge amount of money in R&D, and that is the bottom line for us to build capability. So be it if we have to go backward integration, in fact, when we build small caliber ammunition, we developed with our partner machines where we bought in and said that could be IP products for us, how we want the machines to happen, and we developed it here, or develop a full product out of it. That's the main focus for us to take it to the next level. We work closely with the user. There are some times where we bring a product and then we tell a user that this is available and this is what we are doing. How do you want to take it to the next level? So that's where our focus is.
Mr. Saraf, look into the future for us in terms of engine technology. This has implications not just for the defense space, but also for the civil aviation space. We're looking at all sorts of radical designs. We're looking at advanced fuels as well. How are engines going to redefine military aviation and to an extent civil aviation in the future?
So we are already, as you know, there are basically two factors, right? One is you want to have performance, and second is you want to control emissions. So fundamentally, performance versus emissions is always, needs the right balance. We are already advancing towards SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel, and you know that now Indian Oil is basically already started to and have received a contract to do sustainable, SAF aviation fuel. Aviation fuel in our country will be blended with ATF to the tune of 10% to start with, and then, goes on to probably have a complete aviation fuel, SAF put into the aircraft. So first and foremost, getting both the civil and military parts. I think dependence and reliance on the ATF eventually starts to reduce a little bit with fuels, and SAF is basically made out of used cooking oil. So you know how much of used cooking oil comes out of the country, right? It's unprecedented. Today, we are already started to make SAF in India, which is a significant step towards advancement of alternative fuels. Most of the engines that are coming now onwards, and I'll give you an example of Pratt & Whitney's 2 engines, one is the GTF and one is the GTF Advantage. Even today, can support 100% SAF. So our engines that get rolled out of our assembly line, that get put onto the aircraft, can actually fly 100% SAF. And one example I can give you is that the aircraft that rolls out of assembly line in Toulouse or Hamburg from Airbus is filled with 100% SAF. And Pratt & Whitney engines can sustain that. Going forward, at least on the civil side, we'll start with blended. The other one, which is more significant, is that we are moving towards hydrogen. So hydrogen is again starting to be looking at another or an alternative fuel source, although we are a bit away, maybe a decade or so away, in terms of adopting the complete engine and the systems that are supporting the hydrogen as a fuel. But then, as you see, both on the civil and military side, and specifically now that we are getting into almost unmanned space, wherein the war and the battles are fought not with manned aircrafts, but pretty much with unmanned surveillance and attack and defense as well, we are looking to move more into SAF, to hydrogen, to electric propulsion, which is developing as a strong alternative to the standard aviation that's going on. Specifically on the unmanned side, it's, electric makes more sense because, things are a bit finite there. We are looking at a particular range, the weapon, going in a particular direction for so many kilometers, coming back to the base, etc. So these are the things that I see evolving, and obviously we are supporting all of them pretty much.
Well, it's been wonderful speaking to all three of you. Make in India, build for the world. The tremendous potential that exists in our country, the opportunities as well, new technologies, and huge employment opportunities as well, I think is the big takeaway. Thank you all very much for being with us. Thanks very much indeed.